When you're trapped and cornered, several things start to happen. Your adrenaline starts to pump, your heartbeat pounds in your ears, you sweat, you panic. All of this happened to me as I paced around the cupboard trying to collect my thoughts. None of this was helped by the continuous pounding on the door. I took a deep breath and checked the door. It was solid and the lock was sturdy. It would hold, but that didn't help me with getting out of the room. I looked around, not much in the way of useful implements. A few boxes of hand towels, toilet paper, some mops, a mop stick I'd used to repel my attacker earlier, some bin bags, and that was about it. I checked my bag that I brought with me today, hoping that somehow a machine gun had materialised in there at some point. Of course, it hadn't. Just a spare t-shirt, a can of Iron Brew, a book, Day by Day Armageddon, and some Doritos. Crap. Outside everything had gone quiet. All I could hear was the pounding on the door. Guess it was too much to ask for them to forget about me and move on. I looked at my options. First, the door. Pretty much suicide. I'd be lucky to make my way past the one at the door and had no idea how many more were out there. If this had happened to everyone in the ward, it could be as many as 50 people, 30 patients and various amounts of staff if they hadn't already fled. Another option was the wall. The hospital executive board had bragged about how the hospital was future-proof. If anything needed rewiring or new systems needed to be put in, you could just smash into the cheap wall, put it in and fix it up again. But then by the time I smashed my way through, odds are the things would have heard me. Or the third option. Sit tight, cross my fingers, hope the door holds and they get bored. This was the most appealing option, but I had no idea how long this would take. It could be days, or I could just stay there. None of the options was particularly jumping out at me. I looked up to the heavens and asked God for an answer. And surprisingly, he responded. I smiled as I saw my way out. I piled a couple of hand towel boxes and climbed up on top of them, pushed a cheap board up and looked up into the gap between the main ceiling and the false ceiling, where cables ran. I was reminded of aliens, worrying about one of those things that climbed up here, and I didn't fancy one of them biting me on the arse. But the pounding and grinds on the door drove me up, only pausing to grab my coat. Chilly outside, don't want to catch my death, and the mop handle. Not sure why, but I just felt better by having it in my hand. I threw the pole up and then hauled myself up, replacing the board behind me. Wasn't sure if they were smart enough to follow me, but I didn't want to take the chance. It was dim up here, dusty as hell, enough room for me to crouch, but that's about it. But at least I could see where I was going. I slowly made my way across the beams, testing each step carefully. I didn't want to risk putting my foot through a board and falling through, twisting my ankle, being devoured by the monsters below. I made my way east, about 15 metres. I stopped. I should have been, by my estimation, just above the door. I removed the panel and looked down. A body. I couldn't make out whose it was. Half the face was missing, the other half caked in blood. I suppressed my reaction to puke. 2 more panels over, and I'll be on the other side of the door that required a swipe card to open. Without these things were too smart to work out how to work it. I stooped over to the panel I needed and pulled up. I looked through, both ways down the corridor. All clear. I gently dropped down and looked back into the ward. I didn't want to, but I couldn't help myself. There they were, just shambling about, around. One looked at me. I knew her. A moan escaped her lips. They all proceeded to the door, banging and shoving at it, trying to get to me. Fortunately, they were too dumb to work out the swipe card system. I moved closer to the door, looking through the glass. gazing into their eyes. I saw nothing, just emptiness. They continued to pour at the glass. I saw something reflected. I threw myself to the side just as one of them slammed into the door where I was a second earlier. Where the hell had it come from? They escaped into the main part of the hospital. People that had been sent to the actual emergency turned and spread whatever this was. I didn't have time to contemplate this any further as the creature was coming at me again. Not seeing another handy fire extinguisher nearby, I held only the pole as a weapon. Held it in both hands in front of me, keeping it between me and it. It lunged. I swung the pole straight into its kneecap. It sank to one knee. It looked up and growled again, but at this point it was roaring at nothing, so I had taken off down the corridor, closing the doors behind me. Thank you, Resident Evil, for the advice on doors. I swiped my card again, walked past maternity. I could hear screaming, crying. I couldn't bring myself to look in, but blood was seeping under the door and into the corridor. The elevator was just around the corner. I would take it to the ground floor, head out through the underground parking area. As I was waiting for the elevator, I considered the stairs might have been a better option. I wasn't paying attention, and it almost killed me. I headed straight into the lift and, without thinking, tucked in the corner just out of view, it hurled itself at me. It caught me on the side. I somehow managed to get the pole between me and it, its teeth biting into the pole. It was a gal, blue top, blonde hair, jeans. I'm not sure. I was too busy trying not to get eaten to play fashion police. I managed to get my foot up and drive it into her stomach, then used my pole to hold her against the wall while I groped around trying to find the ground floor button. The door slid shut and I could use both hands to hold her in place. The ride down seemed to take forever. Hopefully they would not be outside the elevator door waiting for me. The door opened, it was clear, and I sprinted out the elevator, leaving the thing behind me. The corridors in the hospital were wide and offered a nice area to dodge around. I was going to need it. The ground floor was swarming with them. Broken glass, broken bodies everywhere. People yelled, cried. I just kept going. It was easy to dodge most of the creatures. They were too preoccupied with others. Easier prey that they'd already taken down, gorging themselves on. I was approaching the main lobby. I could head out the revolving door, but that would be suicide. Best take the stairs down the floor and head through the parking. I was almost at the stairs, just passing the coffee shop, when one came out of nowhere, waving its arms at me. I ducked it and raised the pole. I caught it under the chin, drove it back, but I miscalculated. It grabbed my shirt. I pushed hard, pushing it back. I knocked it straight through the glass divider between the stairs and the floor. We both tumbled over, our momentum carrying us down with it. I landed on top of the thing. I had the pole snap its neck as we landed. I noticed that although its body could no longer move, its head continued to try and bite me. I stomped on it. It stopped moving. I stumbled to my feet, winded, but there was the door, leading out to the parking area. I'd made it. Just. Limping slightly, I swiped my card and headed through into the parking area. It was deserted. I walked freely through. I stood on the pavement just outside the hospital. Emergency vehicles were racing past. I walked up the slight slope. Everything had changed. People on the ground being eaten or shambling around with blank faces, pursuing those who still remained among the living. The staff bus pulled up to the main entrance and opened its doors. The driver, not realising his mistake until it was too late. The things forced their way on and attacked everyone on board. There's nothing I can do. I turned round and started the long 2-mile run home. Part 4. Home. Coming soon.